That man is a product of a poor environment. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. I can prove it.
Of course there's something wrong with him. He's a Negro.
The mic drop.
From a ground station nestled in the mountains at Andover, Maine, a signal is sent to a speeding satellite. An historic feat that could reshape man's feet. Complex electronic equipment that receives signals beamed from Earth, magnifies them 10 billion times, and rebroadcasts them back to Earth.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Big Mike Drop. I'm your host, Big Mike, and we got a special guest in the building, Dr. Randy Short in the building. Hey, what's up, Dr. Short? How you doing?
I'm good. You?
I'm doing well. You hear me loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. We getting started, man. We on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we're on Blog Talk Radio. So I'm gonna open the phone lines up tonight and open up the chat here in a moment once we get this thing started. How you been? How you been doing today?
Man, I'm good. But I do want to remind you, send me the last show link. I need to share that with people that follow. I didn't get that. I want to make certain I ask you for that from the very get-go. So I'm good. I'm good.
Absolutely. I'll get that right over to you. Yeah, man. So tonight we're going to talk about the war on Ye, is what I call it. But what can we learn from this said war on Ye? You know, Adidas cut ties with Kanye West today. Ye, that was basically his $1 billion plan was with Adidas. That was
Mhm.
what made up his net worth, or his self-proclaimed worth of $11 billion were projections from what he planned on getting from the sale of the Yeezy shoes, which, by the way, I got a pair on right now and an Adidas hat. This is for Kanye, man. Tonight, this is for Kanye. We're gonna talk about this Adidas thing, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna get a little deep into it. I got some videos and some other things, and plus we got the expert Dr. Short in the building. So, man, what are your thoughts on this situation with Kanye West and
I'm
losing?
not going to claim expertise at all. I've just been observing for a while, and it's complicated, and we don't know the half because we're not the lawyers, we're not the people handling the accounts. We don't know, but what we do see is that Kanye has put his hands on the third rail of uh, of American culture, which is you can't be perceived to be anti-Jewish. I mean, everybody can be anti-black. Folk can kill us, murder us, whatever. And I mean, folks, you get a senator from Alabama can get up within the last 2, 3 weeks and say that black people want reparations for being criminals, and there's
Yes,
no repercussions for it. Uh, Kanye can say something that may not have been stated in the best way, but may not necessarily be wrong, and folks want to destroy him, and he has to be dealt with. There's something odd here, and I'm not making Kanye West a black leader or anything, but he is a cultural creative force, as he's been for at least the better part of 20 years, um, and he's someone that at least when it suits him, identifies with the rank and file black people. And so I'm looking at this, and he's not the first person. I, I did an interview yesterday. I was sharing with people that I was in Brazil. I arrived in Bahia, Brazil, Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, the same day Michael Jackson did, back in 1995 or 96. Whenever they did they don't care about us. And he said, what he'd say, Jumi Sumi, kick me, kike me. And they stayed on Michael into perpetuity for this
right,
without any explanation as to why Michael may have said that. Um, and everyone black was supposed to hate Michael Jackson and turn on him, and globally everyone had to revile him because some people said. And yet, you, these things happen to us all the time, and it doesn't really matter who does it. If Howard Stern makes racial statements against black people to build up his career, um, he's not seen. If Mr. Maurer of Politically Incorrect, there are a whole host of people who make awful, racist, insidious statements about black Americans all the time, and there's no fallout over that. In fact, it's never explained which kind of white person it is that said it, because sometimes the people who are involved in uh, racial insults and slur tossing are Jewish people. I didn't say all, I didn't say every, I said some now and then. This is just a fact. And I think, remember, there was a guy who's a basketball team owner. I believe he's Jewish, and he made a whole bunch of statements about black people and
Donald
so forth.
Sterling,
Yeah,
Don-
Donald Sterling, and it's the Clippers. What was the team?
the Clippers.
Yeah. Um, these things happen all the time. They are not destroyed and everything taken from them. In fact, very few people say anything about it. So that's one side. So there is a group dynamic that's taking place. And at the same time, Kanye's done things that have opened it up for him to be seen as being touched mentally or several sandwiches short of a picnic, uh, at least if you don't know him well or how he's represented. Are you following me? And
Yeah.
the same thing has been done with Michael Jackson, other people. One thing that people need to understand is whenever you see this happen with a black celebrity, oftentimes there is a conflict over resources. And in the case of Michael Jackson, uh, it's absolutely that Michael Jackson was in a conflict with a man by the name of Evans Chandler Sr., who committed suicide 2 weeks after Michael Jackson's death. He's a Jewish man who brought charges that Michael Jackson had molested his son. Michael Jackson died, what, in 2009? And it's been like 13 years since Michael Jackson died. And this young man whose family got the $20 million payout for this alleged abuse that he incurred from Michael Jackson. And he's never said one thing about it. It doesn't sound like, in my view, that that we got the whole story, if you're feeling me, and the way that Michael Jackson's catalog was fought over and so forth. The same way they said that Michael Jackson was broke and didn't have any money, and then they found money after Michael Jackson was dead. Oh wow, look at someone. I think you're currently being shadow banned live, nor the red light appears by your channel.
Yeah, that's my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe. Yeah, thank you.
Well, you have my name up here, and I definitely am shadow banned. So back to Kanye, he's been a phenomenon. He's made money. He doesn't kiss people's behinds, and he's black. And in this instance, he's got a domestic issue in the crazy state of California. And he knows who he does business with and what's going on. And he has an idea of who the players are, who runs the music business and the entertainment business, and who runs Hollywood.
Right.
And if you ask wealthy people, Jewish people claim that they are a power force in media and music, films, television, and print, as well as social media. They say so. Now, if you claim to be very, very powerful and potent, and that you're a shot caller, well, if someone says that you're a shot caller and that you're doing something, is that bigotry or is that perhaps a poorly worded observation of what's going on?
I think it's a factual statement, and that's the only thing that really offends certain people. Are
Right.
factual statements. People really have no reason to be offended by lies. I mean, if somebody's lying on you, then we shouldn't be offended by that. But if somebody's telling the truth or something that you don't want everybody to know, that's when you really, become hyper offensive. Hyper offended in my opinion. Um, yeah, we got Bernard in the building, man. What's up, Bernard? They just coming through. Let's hit the like button. Yeah, man. Let's keep this thing going, man. If we are shadow banned on here, let's get the likes up so we can outrun the algorithm on this. This is a important conversation we're going to have tonight. And like I said, Dr. Short, for those of you who are just joining us, I got Dr. Randy Short in the building with me. So y'all definitely show him some love, man. Hit him up, man, on the Cash App. Also hit him up on the PayPal, man. This good information is not always free. That's what we got to, we got to start getting that across to people. I wanted to show a couple of videos for those who may not be up to speed with the situation right now. I kind of assume that everybody watches the news and stays informed like I do, but that's an assumption, right? So let's watch a couple of videos. I'm gonna watch one. I want to get started with one about what's going on with Ye. And for those of you who don't know that, Adidas cut ties with Kanye West today. That was his biggest money maker. And ironically, he was their biggest money maker as well. So why was Adidas faced with so much pressure, and why did they cave to the pressure? Now, I've seen Nike in similar situations, maybe not with anti-Semitism, but I've seen Nike in similar situations with controversial comments and, controversies, like Tiger Woods, right? But Nike stood behind Tiger the whole time through his marital, issues that, went public. But Adidas backed away from Ye. It's gonna cost them $246 million for the rest of 2022. So Ye and Yeezys, the brand has, grosses about $1.7 billion a year for Adidas.
Hmm.
So it's a major part of their portfolio. What I
Like
heard,
make his own shoes, make them in Africa. Labor force is less expensive, and just sidestep it. That's where the population is going to grow anyway. So he should make his own shoes. And I would say to Kanye, poverty is a choice at this point. You have that kind of liquidity, certain banks won't take your money, then you need to buy some factories that make your shoes somewhere else. In fact, that may be a godsend.
it
Uh,
may be, but I heard something on this one news story, and I want to run it because I want you to hear, and I want you to observe as well, Dr. Short, and those of you out there, observe who they are getting to talk about Ye on these major platforms. Observe who they're getting. This show is going to be it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with in this. There's a lot of moving parts to this situation, and everything is what meets the eye in this situation. Like you said, you didn't want to go the black leader route, but I believe that Kanye is becoming an example of blackness that we all need to take heed to and not just dismiss as crazy. That's my opinion. But let's take a look and at this video. This is Fox 11, LA. And I want you to, it's a couple of minutes.
The rapper
long.
formerly known as Kanye West.
Yeah, here we go. All right, let me make sure I get it right. Stop that screen. Start this screen back up. All right. Here we go. And this is fair use, by the way.
The rapper formerly known as Kanye West is losing more support in the business and entertainment world over his recent anti-Semitic statements. Brooke is here with more on this announcement from a major sportswear company.
We're talking about Adidas. Ye has already been dropped by his talent agency, attorneys, several brand partnerships, and this morning Adidas becomes the latest to sever ties with the rapper. The German company actually released a statement this morning saying anti-Semitism and any other sort of hate speech, they say the company doesn't tolerate it. They say Ye's recent comments and actions have been unacceptable, hateful, and dangerous, and they violate the company's values of diversity and inclusion, mutual respect, and fairness. The decision to move on is an expensive one. By cutting ties with Ye, Adidas has actually said they expect to take a nearly 200.
I want y'all to take note of Adidas's statement here. Take note. Just put that in your back pocket for a minute.
$50 million hit to its net income this year. This morning's announcement comes as Ye has made, even more eye-opening remarks. Rapper sat down for a podcast interview with a Jewish MIT research scientist, and during their conversation, he said more anti-Black things, really harmful anti-Black tropes. He said that genocide and population control of Black people. He complained about that, blaming Planned Parenthood as well as the media and record companies, which he then turned it into an anti-Semitic trope by saying that it was controlled by Jewish people.
Planned Parenthood and genocide is an anti-Black trope. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Short? That statement right there.
Well, I'll share something with you. One, Kanye West has already told people the story that his parents were contemplating aborting him. Okay, Planned Parenthood is Black genocide. I mean, it's a part of it, absolutely. It comes out of the American Birth Control League, started by Margaret Sanger in 1916. In the 1930s, they had a thing launched called the Negro Project, which was a plan to basically slowly kill off Black people with birth control. And this is a fact. I have the Margaret Sanger papers in the Library of Congress in the Madison Building Manuscript Division. I would be glad to visit or take some people on a tour and show them that their documents, it's very obvious who we were targeted. And in particular, they wanted to use Black preachers in particular, which they succeeded in getting prominent Black ministers to support this eugenics project. And it's still in play today. Planned Parenthood illegally receives over $500 million in funding from the U.S. government. Any population control project or group that targets a minority population under the Genocide Convention that the United States signed in the 1990s is unlawful under international law. They hate us so much it's funded anyway. Planned Parenthood, about 40%, roughly 40% of all the babies aborted by Planned Parenthood are Black. The vast majority of their abortuaries are within a 2-mile walking distance of a Black, predominantly Black or non-Black area. Okay, it's very obvious. Margaret Sanger's a Nazi in the sense that she was very close to the Third Reich. And people from Nazi Germany published in her American Birth Control Review. This is just a fact of history. There is a plan to eliminate Black people in America. They act on it. He is correct. He is right. And there's just no way around it.
Right. Right. And that's what I want people to take heed of. You know, they put these, you know, young girls in front of you with all this flowing hair, half of it hers, half of it somebody else's. And, you know, they sit up and tell you these lies, and she ran it over so quick. That's why I like to stop.
But look at her name, Brooke. When do you hear of a Black woman named Brooke?
Right.
Okay, so you can tell that this is some bushy boule broad.
Right.
She, I mean, and probably biracial or one of these Brooke. Brooke Shields is the only person I know with Brooke. It's a white girl.
It broke.
I mean, you just, come on. There are certain assimilated Black people. I worked in the news business for 4 years. And in order to be in some of these places, you have to be a self-hating Black person that eats fecal matter out of the rear ends of white folks to make it. You don't make it on talent or ability. That they don't care about that. They want people and the media. These people are nothing but prompter readers. She's done no real research. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, in Portuguese they say comival. She's someone that you wouldn't mind sleeping with, and that's what they put up on Fox TV. Attractive looking women that can lie to you. You know, let's just call it what it is. Comival means affable in English.
Oh, wow. Let's finish this one. That's funny.
When pressed by the host, Ye refused to back.
Very affable. Comival. Tal comival.
Many family members. It's interesting because this is a multi-billion-dollar actually section of Adidas, this partnership with Ye. And it's interesting that they seem to believe 250 million is not that big of a deal because Adidas actually owns basically everything except for Kanye's name.
All right. That's where we come into play. And I wanted to play this clip just for that. And it's funny that you got the sister doing the majority of the talking about
and look at how she has on the prostitute red cover dress.
Oh yeah, with the stripper heels. I'm peeping the whole setup out. And they got the other women of non-color sitting up there all homely dressed and conservatively dressed, and she steps out.
But now, in this instance, it's an attract. Oftentimes, they have a bloated Black woman, a person that looks like a personnel carrier. You know, when you want to land on the beach at Normandy. I mean, Lord. So in this instance, you've got that situation.
You know why they're doing this though, and this is very important that this is pointed out. They're doing this because they're trying to get to the younger black community.
And particularly young black men.
A young black
because they know that young black men, let's be honest about black men. I'm always disappointed. We're the only community of men I've seen in the world that only use their penis as a logic system. And it's too much of it. And the justification is, well, I love pussy and I'm straight, so I have to love pussy so much till I'm just completely stupid when it comes down to my penis. I mean, if it's stimulated by something, it's got to be okay. And I'm not knocking liking women or this, but God, I mean, other people procreate, screw, and they manage to do some thinking as well. It shouldn't have to be because I'm straight. In order to get me some sex, I have to be the dumbest man that ever walked the earth. But that seems to work for a lot of brothers. It's really this simpleton, simpish, I call them faggotists, weak black guys. So I know folks right then and there, the way her dress is cut, whatever she said, if she said murder Kanye and his kids, man, as long as they thought or had a fantasy that they could sleep with her, whatever she says is justified.
Right.
And we have a lot of black men. So she could get up and say kill black men, they would just giggle. If a black man got up there and said black men shouldn't pay child support when they're not the DNA fathers of the kids, you could get at least half the black men to argue against that because it's a man speaking.
Right.
Do you get where I'm coming from? It's as if we're able to have some thought or diversity of opinion when it's the male. When it's a woman, it's all lockstep. If they're pretty, man, I'm gonna get that pussy. Whatever she says, she fine. Kanye wouldn't have gone up. They would find some way to agree with her about Kanye instead of saying why is she up here?
Right. And I'm saying, why is she up here?
So the wonder is that they will just start continuing to release these incredibly popular products. Just he won't get a cut of it.
Hey, y'all don't buy that shit no more. Buy all if you want to buy all the Yeezys that have been bought already, that he's already been paid for, go ahead and get them off the market and keep them. But do not buy that bullshit Adidas puts out that looks just like this shoe, and they're gonna call it somebody else or some Adidas whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's the Yeezy shoe. That's the Yeezy shoe. Somebody put on Facebook that they can't wait to buy their Yeezys in Ross. Look, it was a low blow, man. It hurt. It hurt. But I think now is the time for us to circle our wagons because these other people circle their wagons no matter
no matter what, they circle the wagon.
How wrong they are, dog. You could be wrong. It's two left shoes. They are going to circle the wagons. That's why Kyle Rittenhouse is free today because people circle the wagons. You know what I'm saying? They didn't give a damn what he did. And that's how we need to be about Kanye. You know, I got support for my brother right now at this point in time. More so at this point in time because they're trying to mentally break him. They're trying to assassinate his character. And we're watching this happen in real time. Now, this little thing.
And they've done this to Bill Cosby. They've done it to, R. Kelly. And if you listen to the news, the only people that are getting some extra ass are black entertainers, as if all white ones are just living for the Lord 24/7. If you really believe that, come now.
Right. Now, R. Kelly is a different situation to me because I felt like we kept him around too long and it actually got more people harmed.
Well, we're doing the same thing with the Democratic Party. We tend to coddle things that aren't good for us for too long.
Right.
We still following Jesse Jackson and listening to Reverend Sharp Turd. We have a lot of people. You're in Georgia. What's the Stacey Abrams? What has she done? Really. You got her up there twerking, looking stupid.
Oh, she ain't gonna do nothing. It's not what she's done, what she's gonna do, which is absolutely nothing.
Well, no. She's gonna destroy black Georgians and make them like it, But anyway,
she's gonna get out of here after this one. I think Stacey move out after this one. She's gonna hit a New York or California or somewhere like that.
Oh, well, she can do whatever she wants.
Yes, it won't be Georgia.
Well, the thing I want to just say before we move on is that Adidas and these other corporate giants, uh, th- their hands aren't clean. And there are a lot of these companies right now that are scrambling, saying stuff about Kanye. But the real anti-Semites and killers is not a black man going through some angst. It's white corporations that had a lot to do with the mass murder and oppression of people that are Jewish in Europe, and none of them are black owned.
We're
And
gonna
if you let some of these reactionary,
hey,
racist,
I,
Khazars, I'm almost done. These people, you would think that the concentration camps that Jewish people were starved to death in or worked to death or gassed, you would think that they were in South Central, in Anacostia, D.C., in East or West Baltimore. You would think that we're the ones that did this to them and not the white people from Europe that they identify with and get the nose jobs to look like. The people who've killed and butchered Jews have been white people, and Jewish people identify as white. So to me, you're pissed at us for white on white crime in Europe. If I can be, that's how it looks to me. I'm not saying it's justified for people to be murdered or killed, because I've certainly killed millions and millions of people. It's awful. However, who did it? And where did it happen? And if it happened in Europe and it's European people and they're white people, then this whole term anti-Semitism is in reality based on the experience that Jews had from Europe, from European people. And it is primarily among white people that you have this strong anti-Jewish thing. And that includes Arabs that identify as white. So why is this put on our doorstep as if we're the ones? You would think that Adolf Hitler was an Afro Sheen salesperson. If you let these Jewish people talk about anti-Semitism, that this is all something that we do. Come now. Does anti-Semitism exist? Sure it does. But are Black American people persecuting historically, doing evil to Jewish people? That is someone that wants to have a justification to hate. That is someone trying to assimilate with WASP to say, we hate them just like you do for our own reasons. Okay, and so we can't duck that. And I'm not saying everybody Jewish is one way or the other. Some Jewish people are very cool, and some Jewish people are not cool. And as a result of that, sometimes you will hear Black folks say things that are very harsh about Jews. And then you'll hear Black folks say things that are laudatory about Jews, because they're not a monolith, neither are we. I may not like one thing about one set of people, and the same set of people like another whole group. It depends on how you're dealing with us.
right, right. Well, I'm glad you brought up the fact of that, a lot of these companies' hands aren't clean. We're gonna actually get to that. I wanted to show another video. And this sister just continues to kind of dog Ye out. The white guy tries to jump in. He looks like an Asian guy. He tries to jump in on a news story and just ask some objective questions. Be objective a little bit, and it kind of was just.
Well, the object is to get rid of us.
Yeah, it was just a trash fest on Ye.
And to use what I call pork chop feminists. These are weaponized Black women. Sometimes they're moist, sometimes they're studs, but they always dislike Black men and Black people.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They always dislike, and you see them everywhere. Like I said, they're running Stacey, Keisha Lance Bottoms. She's another man-hating, weaponized pork chop feminist, which is why she's not in office. And again, pork chop feminism and all this bad behavior in our sisters functions as a part of Black men only being concerned about a woman's private parts and not her as a whole being. So, I mean, having a nice bosom and a nice behind doesn't mean that you're a nice person. You may be a person that someone wants to penetrate, but not someone to have a family with or someone to entrust the fate of a race of people.
Mm, mm. If people notice the right here on the background, if you look down to your, it's gonna be my right, it's probably your left. That creature right there. I want to discuss what that creature is, and I'm sure you know about this, Dr. Short. But this creature is a rendition of what they call a golem.
Oh, yes.
And I believe that the golem, y'all look that up because I'm not going to get too much into talking about these people in that type of way because I don't want them to shut this down. We already know that they have the power to do that, and they're exercising that power right now. What I really want to concentrate on is looking at the different aspects of this whole attack that Kanye is sustaining right now. And he is sustaining. I mean, he's not broke. Even though they're trying to let you think he's broke, he's not broke. So I want to look at I want to look at how they're waging war to build counterintelligence. Does that make sense? You know, I'm trying to see how the war is being waged, how it goes down. So right now, you know, he's crazy. Even though anybody else that has mental health issues, we're supposed to feel sorry for them. You know, school shooters and all these people that they try to, you know, bring up their mental health issues and make us
Jeffrey Dahmer,
or Jeffrey Dahmer, right?
George
But
Zimmerman, they're always got a mental problem, especially killing black people.
right, but we're supposed to throw Ye in the fire because he got a mental problem, or you're supposed to be able to have your comedians come out and talk about this man taking his medication. They would never do that to somebody else that looked different. D.L. Hughley would have never made a joke about somebody's mental health if they
Well,
looked different from him. You see what
you
I'm
mean
saying?
D.L. Hughley?
Right. Right. D.L. Democratic Shield. Can't
No,
stand
well, D.L. Hughley, the people like that are basically they're coontards, and these are sellout type people who are given a platform to mess over us. So, like Stephen A. Smith, I mean, they're everywhere. But it's our collective fault that we don't boycott those things. Nobody should be watching Inside Sports or any of that. Steve Smith's ass should have been gone a long time ago.
right.
A lot of our people think, again, being dumb is cool, being mediocre is cool, going along to get along is cool. Well, people thought going along to get along was cool, riding to concentration camps in Europe. That's why Jewish people are on their game. They don't tolerate anything because sometimes they used to like go along to get along. What is it going to take for us?
Right. Oh, I mean, look, if we're not looking at their story and gaining some type of inference and information from it, then we're slipping because we have to look at that as well. And I'm gonna go over that. I'm gonna go over that because I think that's something that's misconstrued throughout history as well. Is how that whole situation is portrayed with World War II, Hitler, the Holocaust, and whatnot, because there was a lot of people that were being murdered. There were a whole lot of different groups of people being murdered. It was 8 million Soviets between POWs and
Oh, it's
civilians.
more. It's more than 8.
Yeah,
I mean, but over on the Soviet Union edition, they killed over 25 million Russians. So I mean, you're talking about 30 million some odd people killed from the former Soviet Union. I mean, close
well,
to 2 million from Yugoslavia, close to 4 million from Poland. I mean, there's a lot of people being killed. It wasn't just one group.
right now, and I got those stats here, and we'll get into those here in a little bit. I'll say this too. Um, the Russian death toll is kind of hard because Stalin was killing a lot of folks too during the
Yeah, but
collectivization, so it was a lot of that going on as well
right. But
between
even with
Russia and
that,
Ukraine.
who was helping Stalin do the killing in Russia? If you get into it, it's not a pleasant answer.
Mm,
I mean, if you really look at who had positions in authority in the Soviet Union, who were most of the commissars, which group of Russians were they?
The
It's
Bolshevik.
it. Yeah, no, but what were the Bolsheviks and what was their ethnic background?
They were
All you have
Jewish
to do, well,
students.
well if you look, you're going to find the whole lot of killing happening. Um, hmm,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just saying. I'm just saying. Just go look. Don't believe me, and I'm not making a statement against anybody. I'm just saying do your own research on who the commissars were in the former Soviet Union. Who were the commissars under the Bolsheviks? Who's Bukharin? And what was Lenin really? And Kamenev and Zinoviev. Start looking, and Trotsky. What are they as Russians? If you look, don't believe me, Iron Felix and all the other people. Just look. It's not going to be the kind of answer that you'd see on American television.
facts. Those are facts. Those are facts. It's actually a rumor that Vladimir Putin's grandparents were killed in the concentration camps.
It's a possibility. A lot of things happen. If you've noticed that Israel has not come down too hard on Putin waging war on the Ukraine, and if you look, Putin hasn't bombed heavily Odessa, which is a strong Jewish presence in the Ukraine. They have not really blown Odessa to bits.
Right.
Why not? I'm not saying they should, but just you're fighting a war. There's certain places they have not attacked.
Right. Nah, man, look, this shit goes deeper, man. It's not just about Kanye, and that's why I'm glad you're here, because I really want the people to be able to, this is like a spider web. It's not a linear type of occurrence. This is like a web. It's all types of things going on. And there are a lot of people that you need to be educated on. I noticed that word gets thrown around a lot. I was watching the Wolf Blitzer today, and he was saying that maybe Kanye they say he's turned down several offers from rabbis to come be educated. Now I know they tried to do that to the baby, but that was the homosexuals that tried to do that to the baby. They wanted to come educate somebody. So now what is this thing where you got to go to their elders and be educated? Because I noticed they've said that, they use that word, and also the homosexual agenda, they use that word as well. Come be educated. Like you have to go somewhere to them, and then they're going to teach you something. Now, my thing is this. If you're heavy players in the media and you have all of this Steven Spielbergs and all of these different people that could put this message out there, why are people so ignorant about you? Why do they have to come for other education after the fact? Why aren't you putting out your education? Why aren't you educating people on you instead of using your platforms to miseducate people on us and miseducate us on ourselves?
It may be what's in their text. I would just say that Martin Luther, the great German reformer, the founder of the Lutheran Church and the Reformation, took the time to do the reading. And he became an anti-Semite off of his study of the Jewish Talmud. The Talmud has some very interesting stories and takes in it that would not work well with a lot of Orthodox and Protestant Christians and Catholics. Just how Jesus is made reference to and how Christians are seen. It's not something that I would want people to know. If I was Jewish, I wouldn't want people reading my sacred material if they really knew what it was saying, because it could create problems.
That's why it's important to read. That's why it's important to research. I hope y'all got your pen and papers out here. I want to show this news story. This happened in Los Angeles. Now, I'm not quite convinced that this is real. This may be fake news, but check this one out.
Over the weekend, a banner hanging over the 405 freeway reading, "Kanye is right about the Jews," and then a second banner stating, "Honk if you know." This comes after rapper Kanye West came under fire for a series of anti-Semitic statements and a general rise in anti-Semitic attacks across the country. For more on this, I want to bring in Jeffrey Abrams, regional director there at the Anti-Defamation League in Los Angeles. So Jeffrey, your reaction to this incident, and do we know anything about this hate group that hung these banners?
Thank you, Karen. It's good to join you. What we saw in LA over the weekend on the 405 freeway, one of the most trafficked freeways in our nation, was yet another example of the vile anti-Semitic rhetoric which is spreading throughout the Southern California region and our country. This group that hung these offensive banners is well known to ADL and to law enforcement. We've seen their antics in the past, their propaganda, which takes the form of both these banners and at times flyers that are dropped.
Now, you notice there were no black faces in that group. The guys that were doing the Nazi salute, there were no black people in that group. I won't go as far as to say there weren't people of color in that group, but there were no black people. Let's just use the term FBA tonight. Not in that group. I just thought that was interesting.
Within neighborhoods spewing anti-Semitism. But what makes this so dangerous and so different is how Kanye West and his anti-Semitic rhetoric is now being leveraged by these hate groups.
So, I mean, according to the ADL, it looks like the latest numbers, right, are at least 330 cases of anti-Jewish vandalism, harassment, and assault that has been recorded in just this past year alone. So what's going on?
Well, we do an annual audit of anti-Semitic incidents, and our last full data set was for 2021, which was a historic year, the highest in our 40-year plus history of this survey. And what we saw was categorically across the nation a 34% rise, here in the Southland a 28% rise. And that included not only incidents of vandalism and harassment, but actual assaults. Last year in Southern California, we saw 14 Jewish people assaulted.
Whoa. Okay, so everything else was just harassment and vandalism.
14.
So
In a state state with a population of nearly 40 million people. 14.
14.
I'm not saying that that's good, but 14 out of 30, 38, 39 million people, that's really a wave, isn't it? I mean, that's a real big wave.
Yeah,
you can get you can get that many murders in Chicago on a weekend or a day.
Right.
14 assaults in a year. Sit down and think about that. That's one every 6 weeks. Or actually a little more than that, one every 7 weeks or 8 weeks. No, every 6 or 7 weeks, someone says that they're harassed for being Jewish. That's out of millions and millions of people. That's almost not perceivable. Frankly, it's perceivable to the actual victim of that treatment. But overall, that's not a big number.
And so here's the deal. Like I said, there's a lot to be learned from this, and there's a lot of information to be extracted from this from both sides, because it's a way that they've done things to extract justice that I think that we can definitely look at and follow. And I'm going to show some examples of that tonight, because all of this stuff that you're going to see, you notice who's doing all the talking. It's either them telling their side of the story on this, or they have some stool pigeon sitting in there. You know what I'm saying? In the case of this being a black man, they're usually going to put a black woman in there. Like that fool off Entertainment Tonight, she literally got on Wolf Blitzkrieg and said that she was scared. I'm like, what the fuck are you scared for? You're a black woman with bags under your eyes. Who's gonna bother you? But just to kind of sensationalize the story and just make Kanye the face of anti-Semitism. You know, they were trying to do that to Whoopi Goldberg, but Whoopi got back straight. And I forgot. Every time I mention Whoopi Goldberg, Dr. Short, like I said, we clown here on the Big Mic Drop. So every time I mention Whoopi Goldberg, man, I have to show this. So here we go. This is Whoopi's wake up. For those who don't remember, what, about 6 or 7 months ago, Whoopi Goldberg had a wake up too.
Everything I did for you. I did it because I love you. Don't you felt the same way about me?
Me? Love you? Yet you got to be crazy. I use you. You're a toy, bitch. A freak.
Ladies and gentlemen, Whoopi's wake up. Whoopi the Wookiees wake up. She tried that shit a couple of months ago, and she got in line real quick. Nick Cannon, he said some things on the interview with Professor Griff that really weren't that bad, and he got right real quick. Wound up getting another couple of TV shows, and now he's having babies all over the place. Before, he was running around in turbans and shit, talking about he was an Israelite. Once that paycheck got threatened, all of that shit turned around real quick like. Is Kanye going to do the same thing? I don't see him doing it. What do you think?
I don't know what Kanye's going to do. I really don't.
That's an honest answer. You think he could or could not go on an apology tour? Either way, you just don't. We don't know.
I don't think he'd do an apology tour. I think he'd want people to apologize to him. He's like Donald Trump. He's got a very strong ego and very strong ego needs, and he is not going to bow to anyone. I don't see that.
Do you think it's right that they blame him? Because I noticed that these, like Mel Gibson, for instance, Mel Gibson wasn't totally canceled. Mel Gibson's bank account wasn't shut down, and Chase
He's
Man
white. He's white. He's white.
Mel Gibson went in on their ass.
He's white. He's white. And they are pandering to anti-black racism while claiming Jewish isn't white, but using white privilege to attack black people as the special enemy of Jews. I've heard this. I don't see that kind of hate towards Jews in the black community. It just doesn't exist like that. So, but I've heard Jewish people say this, and I believe it's like Farrakhan is a convenient boogeyman to mobilize and stir up anger and fundraise off of imagined enemies. You know, there's a thing called Jewish lightning. Have you heard of it?
No.
You know, if certain places in the country, they will build Jewish centers or synagogues or whatever in areas where there are practically no Jewish people. And there seems to be a pattern of these buildings being struck by lightning or catching on fire, and a huge payout being made. If there's resistance to the payout, then the crime of anti-Semitism is raised, and then they get the money. So Jewish lightning is a euphemism for people possibly burning and destroying their own property and demanding compensation for it. Do you have people who have false Holocaust claims? You do. Is it everybody? No. Is it some people hustling, lying, inventing things that never happened to them in order to publish a book or get a movie deal? This does happen. How often it happens, I don't follow, but does it happen? Yes. Are people engaged in scams and hoaxes to get money off of this persecution that did take place in Europe? It does happen. Maybe not all the time, but it happens. It's not something that doesn't happen at all.
Well, I'll say this too. It was a large population in like New York City in the United States that was on some gangbanging shit way back in the day. They were gangsters, and they didn't go through all of that. And so you still got them here as well too, the descendants of them here as well. So it's some people that have no connection to that major persecution.
That's correct, but it goes further that a lot of American Jews did not go full force to protect the interests of Jews that were being persecuted by Hitler. And I think that now a lot of American organized Jewry is doubled down. They're trying to make up for lost time for what they didn't do in the 1930s and 40s. And you pick a straw man, you pick a community that you can beat up on. Black Americans are such a group. We have not unified or shown ourselves strong, and therefore we can be played.
I think it's important we make that differentiation between them, because like I said, the ones that were here that were starting things like movie houses and the music industry and music businesses and whatnot were not the ones that were getting persecuted in Europe. The ones getting persecuted in Europe would have been immigrants if they came here. They would have been straight from Germany, Lithuania, places like that.
Okay, well, the Jewish people that got killed primarily in the Holocaust would have been people that are identified as Jews, primarily from Poland and Russia. You did have Jewish people in other countries, but the largest populations would be in Russia and the former Soviet Union and in Poland. You did have Jews in other places, but they just didn't have the huge population.
Right.
So, yes, there is a connection between those people who were in America and those that were in Europe. So you have pockets of Jewish people that are sizable in Hungary and Austria and other such places. But when it comes down into the millions, you start talking about these people that are Slavs, that are in the Slavic speaking countries.
Right.
Romania, Russia.
Ukraine.
No, actually, Romania is not Slavic. Ukraine, Russia, Poland. These have the largest Jewish population concentrations.
Right. And for those who would go and look at World War II, history and whatnot, especially the maps, you could go see that for yourself. So go check out the World War II maps and check out and see the areas that Hitler conquered and where a lot of these people came from. These aren't the same people that were over here making movies that are the heads of these movie houses. Not saying they're not related, but they weren't the exact same people. There was a group of people over here that were persecution from Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
No, the people that started the movie business were people from Russia and Poland. They are related, but those people stayed. They got out.
Gotcha.
So these are still European Jews. Some stayed, some came here. And I mean, the people who started the Warner and Paley and all the families, if you look at the key people who created the power matrix in Hollywood, they're Jewish. And they're primarily from the Pale. The Pale is an area in which Jews were forced to live under Tsarist Russia. I'm just saying. And these people didn't live that far from one another, and they came here in the early wave of immigrants.
Okay, got it. Well, thanks for clearing that up for me, because I was a little confused on that. So thanks for clearing that up for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so now Ye's being blamed for the anti-Semitism that's happening in Los Angeles. 14 assaults last year.
In a year.
In a year.
Well, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of another thing that was going on maybe about almost 10 years ago, called the Knockout a Jew game. And they claimed that there were black people going around punching and knocking Jewish people out. And it fizzled. because I don't think a lot of people, black, know what Jews look like, and Jews aren't a race, so it's kind of stupid. I know I criticized that and said it's stupid. You can't tell who's a Jewish person all the time. So I don't know of black folks going around just attacking white people based on their ethnic origin. That doesn't sound like how we operate as a collective.
And if we did attack you, it's because we thought you were white.
Right. But you see, so imagine if 10 people attacked me and I took a stick and I hit 4 of them over the head. If I hit a Jewish person, he would say it was anti-Semitic, instead of the fact that I was trying to whack 10 white guys over the head with a stick. Right. And they would probably get consideration because anti-Semitism is protean. It's whatever people say it is for the moment. It's sort of like you see this protean sexuality or non-binary. It's whatever you want it to be. I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a girl, I'm an old woman, I'm an old man. Oh, I am a sexy purple onion. I mean, it's just, this is some garbage. You know, so you see this, and this is coming from somebody, and you know, there's a lot of corruption and monkey business that goes on in any group of people, Jews not exclusive. And if they make their hustle off of a vulnerable population, then they do. You know, I have a book here, I have all these books stacked up, but one of them talks about how President Grant, then General Ulysses S. Grant, had to expel Jewish traders from areas of the South because they did a lot of things that were so unscrupulous until it created major problems. This is not my opinion, but in the former Tsarist Russia and other places, it was a common thing for people to attack people that were Jewish. And there are a lot of areas that expelled them. By the way, that's in Europe, never out of Africa. But these folks often collected the taxes for the kings, and they got extra. And they were seen as part of the corrupt, unfair government or the monarchy. And so when the people rose up, they attacked Jewish people as a means to get back at the people who are at the apex of the system. So being anti-Semitic, where you punish all Jews for what a few Jews did or perceived to have done, birthed in people a dislike for all Jews collectively. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that this is what happened in Europe. Folks did things or got over on their neighbors, and the neighbors eventually found out and saw the people all as crooks and hated them as a collective. I'm not saying any of that happens in the U.S. I'm only saying that overseas, this has been a perception that this is how Jewish people operate.
Right. And we got the historical evidence on that. Like I said, you can read a book, you know, a lot of different books, a lot of different publications from a certain time period, and you'll see the sentiments. You can see it right in front of your eyes in black and white, and then you can make your own decision, and you know, about what you think happened. I think that, but still, I'm still trying to get to a place where we are looking at how they're waging this war on Kanye.
Well, I mean, we can go back to Hitler, and there's always a way to wage war. It's an economic war, brother, where if you have a large number of people who are in banking or retail or in manufacturing, and you use your ethnic network to ask your brothers who are in the same ethnic group as you to not do business with someone and squeeze them. And if you do have some people in key industries with money, then you can squeeze people. People need to recall that in the 1930s, the World Zionist Organization declared war on Hitler and Germany. And anyone can Google, there's a video on YouTube, and it says Judea declares war on Germany. This is in the 1930s. Organized Jewry declared war on Germany before World War II started. At least they thought they were starting a war. Okay, and this is what's happening in the case of Kanye. And they're punishing him, and there is a desire to punish certain people that are not seen as their friends. There are things that Black people do that's offensive to Jews. For example, a lot of Black Americans have some understanding and empathy for the plight of Palestinians. Not that Palestinians have concern about our plight. Jewish people don't like that. They don't like people who have any critiques of the state of Israel. They see that as anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish. They do not see how we could take, when we see a country bombing dark-skinned people, that may be, a traumatic deja vu, or when we see the Black or non-white Ethiopians, the Mizrahi, Falasha, and other Jews who are not whites being second-class citizens in Israel. That's very reminiscent of Jim Crow and discrimination here. And you need to know that Israel had a Black Power movement among people who identified with us there in relationship to European Jews who came to a Middle Eastern area called Palestine or Israel and have treated the darker skinned people there as if they were dirt under their feet. This may be something that we experience from people who are racist, who happen to be Jewish, and they do this to fellow Jews who are not, because Jews aren't a race, it's a culture. Some Jews are Black, some Jews are not Black. But definitely in Israel, the Jewish people who have the money and the power are the Ashkenazi Jews who identify as white people. And they even have concentration camps. One's called Halat, where they put Africans who try to come to Israel go to concentration camps. Right now, as I'm speaking, and I'm not saying something that's anti-Semitic, I'm just saying something anyone can look up in the news, look up the Jerusalem Post, look up Haaretz. You can read the Ynet, you can read Jewish publications, and they will talk about the mass marches against racism and police violence and brutality that Black people in Israel have right now. So is it possible that the same people that openly display racism and hostility against people who are dark-skinned in Israel, couldn't there be some of that here? Aren't some people, some of the time, prejudiced or hateful in some way? I'm not saying all, but you mean there's just everybody Jewish is just loving and wonderful 24/7? I don't think that you could say that.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, you do know. I mean, I look at things through the prism of the Bible that says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Everybody's got some mess.
Oh yeah.
This response to Kanye is that nobody Jewish has ever done anything wrong. They've always been nice and loving to everybody else. Okay, you can say that, but I think that there's got to be antisocial people and covenant breaking people in all types of human groups, and that I'm certain that Jewish people have their outliers who do what they want and are not decent towards other people, and they give Jewish people perhaps a bad rap. You and I know that a Black person can do something somewhere and we pay for someone we don't know, we're not with. This happens, and this will always happen until we die and go to the kingdom of heaven. But in the interim, there are going to be some people that are good that are Jewish, some people that are in between, and some that do evil, and the same for Blacks. Good ones, good ones, okay, mediocre ones, and good bad ones, or they're great at being bad.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
moving on.
let's see who we dealing with. Let's see who we dealing with.
Simply for being Jewish. And what happened last year has continued unabated this year. We're seeing a dramatic rise here in Los Angeles. And it seems like almost every week we're dealing with these kinds of overt displays of anti-Semitism, whether it's these banners or flyers or in a parking garage at the Grove, which is a large shopping center here in Los Angeles. Hundreds of flyers were distributed. So more and more, we're seeing this rise of anti-Semitism, and it is fueled by the kind of rhetoric from someone like Kanye West, who has millions of fans and followers, who has business relationships with some of the most prominent companies in the world. And so when Kanye West spews his hatred, declares war on the Jews, DEFCON 3 against the Jews, we're seeing it. It has real life consequences. And we're seeing it here in Los Angeles.
Have you even attempted to sit down with Kanye West, try and, I don't know, take him on and get to the reason behind all this, even try and reason with him?
Well, if you take a look at the examples he's citing, it's based on Farrakhan, it's based on the ideology of the Black Hebrews. These are unrepentant anti-Semites. And so while in the past, when there have been celebrities who might have misspoken, there's no question that Kanye Yee is doubling down. It's not as if this was one isolated incident on social media. He's done it repeatedly. He rebroadcast his hatred on broadcasts and interviews with people like Tucker Carlson. So sometimes, and we certainly believe in creating a world where people can get along and speak, but there are also times, like now, when someone seems so unrepentant and keeps doubling down, that really the message is we're urging people to use their voice. We're using companies to use their voice to speak loud and clearly that this is just not acceptable.
That's crazy, man. This is all over something that this man said.
You know, hold
on one second. I don't think we understand that. I don't think we really understand that as a people, that you're literally watching somebody who is a billionaire be silenced when he said nothing that caused any harm to anybody. They're trying to link.
Perception is reality. These folks understand that Black people are the cultural leaders in this country. If Black people start doing this, then everybody else will start criticizing. So they have to nip it in the bud by coming after us first. What I would say to you is that the ADL is a shakedown operation. Abraham Foxman, who's no longer the head, is a shakedown. And I, just almost 10 years ago, got labeled as an anti-Semite by the same group for simply saying that the judiciary of Florida was corrupt. And they decided that I never said Jewish people served as judges in Florida or anything of the kind. They simply said the judiciary was corrupt by what was happening with Trayvon Martin. And it got published that I was an anti-Semite. It's very easy to be called this. It's used cheaply. Basically, I don't like what you're saying, so I put this out, and then everybody panics. And at some point, we're going to have to break the taboo and say, hey, wait a minute. Why are you so comfortable around white folks when they gassed you? Where they're unrepentant people who made money, their families made money off the murder of Jews, and you can get along with them. And if I make any kind of comment about what my reality is, you call me the hater who's not touched or harmed a soul. We need to stop allowing people to do this, but that would require some guts. And I'll tell you, if the average Black person that's in leadership had political nuts that they could be measured, they'd be the size of a salt or a sugar crystal. They're that small.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think this is fair. I don't think that people should be able to infringe this freely on freedom of speech. Man, we got J Speed OG in the building. But I don't think that they should be able to infringe on our speech that easily. I think that's horrible. I mean, especially when anybody can say anything about us.
Well, do you know that the Roman Catholics call Jews Christ killers? And this is all over the country. The Catholic Church has its teachings about Jews. It's because they're a powerful group. You don't hear about that much. So Hitler was a Jewish. I'm sorry, not Jewish man, although he had Jewish ancestry somewhere. Adolf Hitler was a confirmed Roman Catholic, as were many of the Nazis. You don't hear them trashing the entire Catholic Church.
No, you don't. And it used to be the Holy Roman Empire. Germany was actually part of the Holy Roman Empire, so it, all of it was Catholic until well, it was a little bit after even until after Luther nailed the 95 Theses on the door.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it must be the temperature, but something is knocking me out, and I don't want to go to sleep, but I'm feeling drowsy.
Yeah.
We absolutely should, we can do this, just we may need to pick up a pace and go faster just to keep the brain awake, or I take a break and just hit something because I can't believe it. All of a sudden I'm like up here yawning, and it's not because I'm bored. It's not because I want to sleep or whatever. So I don't want to not do this, and we should move forward on this Kanye piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a lot to do. I have a lot to go through. So if you got to drop off, I understand. I appreciate you for.
No, I may come back. So, I mean, I did that the other day, but I had Bible study. So my thing is, if we could do a Q&A for a second, or bring the panel people in, then I come back, because I don't mind doing that. I just don't want to not participate fully. You taking the time to do this show, I appreciate your time. I'm not going to let you down.
No, you're good, man. I appreciate you for coming through. I mean, look, I got a couple more videos I want to go through. So if you want to, while we look at the videos and do some commentary, I'm probably going to bring some people up on the panel. I mean, anytime you want to jump back in, you got the link. So.
Okay, well, let me do this. I'll try to caucus back with you. Although I want to see the links, I can take my camera off and bring other people in.
Okay.
Can't I do that? And that way I can hear.
Yeah. I could put you backstage, and and we can open it up for everybody else to come in.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Appreciate you, Dr. Short.
Yeah, and I'll be back. I just, for some reason, you see me up here yawning, people think he's rude. I'm not rude. This temperature is dropping here. It is knocking me out. I'm thinking, I can't believe this. I don't want to be nodded off when you're talking to me.
Nah, man,
so,
you're good.
So give me a second. But you know what? Run it up to 10 o'clock, and at 10, let me drop out. So we have 11 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to run this because we're talking about Adidas, and it's interesting because it's all connected, man. And I started having some real questions. Of course, we already know what they're doing to Kanye. Kanye's lost business with Balenciaga, Foot Locker, Adidas, Vogue, Gap. And I mean, so the list keeps going.
And we could solve this with the black boycott of shoes. This is the thing I was saying to Brother Tariq Nasheed. We could get Kanye. They would take his behind back but then again, we have to get Kanye and other people. See, they're going to start trying to take the wealth of black people who get rich. If your people are weak and you're rich, they can take your money.
Right.
A lot of folks think once they make money, they don't need their people anymore. It's a very, very stupid way to go through life.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive and find out why Adidas had all that pressure put on them. And then I want to talk about this Kanye West live that went on last weekend that was apparently a scam. I want to discuss that, and I want to go over some photos and some screenshots I took of that
Mm.
and find out
And we,
what this all about.
and we have to remember one thing. This person's asking about the ADL. The ADL was created to protect Jewish criminals and Jewish people from being criticized for their criminal class. Let's just be very honest about it.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's just no way around it. And you've got a Jewish president of Ukraine, and yet he's in a Ukrainian Nazi party in relationship with people who murdered Jews. Since murdering Jews is such, this is just the most awful thing of all times, then how could people, both Israel and Zelensky, who's Jewish, and Jewish people all over the world work with the Svoboda, the Freedom Nazi Party of Ukraine? You can work with Nazis that murdered Jews, but Kanye making a statement means you have to destroy him. It shows you the implicit and explicit racism within organized Jewry in relationship to Black people. Because to me, if you don't like what Kanye said, well, you should really be tore up over what's happening in the Ukraine. You don't see this happening, do you? I'm just saying fair is fair, and I'm not defending the Nazis in Ukraine that murdered Jews. If you're a killer, you're a killer. I don't care what kind. If you honor killers who murdered people in the past, you're not cool. You're wrong. But to me, that's actions. Villages burned, women raped and outraged, and you don't have a problem with that. But if someone has a problem with their children, their children being taken by Child and Family Services, and they make a statement about what they see going on in their career, now that's monstrous. Let me stop. Go ahead, brother. I just wanted to put that up there while I'm thinking.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's all good. Give me one moment. I'm going to step back in and get me another drink. Have to step behind the green screen to get another drink, man. So normally I go with the background, but I'm doing the green screen today. But yeah, I want to show this film, man, because a lot of people were like, Adidas seemed like they were going to hold out for a while, and I actually thought Adidas would hold out just based on their history, that they would hold out. I really didn't think they would fold, and I thought they would back yay up. And at this point in time, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not mad at Adidas. I'm not mad at Adidas. I'm not mad at Kanye. You're going to understand why I take this position. I want you to watch this. And this is about 8 minutes.
How is a German?
All right. So, yep. Hold on 1 second, Dr. Short. It's loud. There we go. So, yep, this is BuzzFeed.
Town that survived World War II, torn apart by shoes. Yes, shoes, just a few years later. This is the story of how two brothers would go on to change the world's shoe game forever in 9 minutes. It all started back at the beginning of the 20th century, and the Dosla family have just welcomed the last two children into their brood. The brothers were seemingly born into their destiny, as their quiet town of Herzogenaurach's main industry was shoemaking. While young Audi was pushed into a baking apprenticeship by his father before he was even a teenager, he was truly passionate about all things sports and how to improve one's athletic performance. But before he could really create a career for himself, Audi was drafted into the war in 1918. He would join Rudi and their older brother Fritz, who had been fighting since the war began. Upon his return in 1919, Audi quickly began formulating a new athletic shoe business. He built shoes out of whatever materials he could find, and even created his own bike-powered leather milling machine to use without electricity. Sports clubs in the area would receive samples of the shoes Audi was designing. The coaches and athletes could test them out for themselves, and the orders began rolling in. Rudy joined in on the fun in 1923, and on July 1st, 1924, the pair officially registered their company as Gebrüder Dossler Schuhfabrik, or Dossler Brothers Shoe Manufacturers. Together, they made a killer team. Audi, the quiet brother, was the mastermind behind the shoes, constantly tinkering and redesigning to make each shoe better and better, while Rudy was outspoken and charming, a born salesman with a mind for business. And so the duo embarked on their dream and began producing 50 pairs of athletic shoes a day to be used for soccer and track. And by 1928, they found their shoes at their first Olympic Games, where runner Lina Rodke not only won the gold for 800 meters in Amsterdam, but broke a world record while wearing Gebrüder Dossler shoes. The following year, the brothers registered their first patents. But just 4 years later, the world would change forever. In January 1933, Adolf Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany, and on May 1st of that same year, Audi, Rudy, and their older brother Fritz all joined the Nazi Party. Unbeknownst to the brothers, this single act would eventually lead to the end of their partnership and brotherhood. But it was an event in 1936 that marks the moment that many believe made the brothers. At the Berlin Olympics, Black American Jesse Owens made history by winning 4 gold medals, setting 3 world records and breaking or equaling 9 Olympic records. And he did all that while wearing Audi and Rudy's Gebrüder Dossler shoes. Owens wasn't the only athlete wearing Dossler shoes while competing. The brothers ultimately won 7 gold medals, 5 silver and bronze medals, and broke at least 5 records with their shoes. But their newly found global fame and success was dampened by the brothers' deteriorating personal relationship as well as the looming threat of war. And on September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, thus beginning World War II and sending the Dossler brothers on a very different path. In December 1940, Audi was ordered to report for duty to the Air Force, but he was dismissed shortly after in February 1941 as he was deemed necessary for the operation of Gebrüder Dossler. In 1943, Rudy was drafted into the army, but would desert his post 2 years later. He was questioned, arrested, imprisoned by the Gestapo, and was transferred to Dachau when he was released to walk home. But his freedom was short-lived as he was arrested by American troops in July to review his involvement with the Nazi Party. He was told that his arrest was triggered by a denunciation which he wholeheartedly believed came from Audi. Rudy was held in an internment camp for an entire year before he was released. Audi was not exempt from investigations into his own involvement with the Nazi Party. After the war ended, he was originally labeled as a Balenciaga by the Denazification Committee in July 1946. This title meant that Audi was deemed an active participant in the Nazi Party and profited from its actions based on the fact that he had a party membership and had worked with the Hitler Youth since 1935. Audi quickly defended himself, stating that his involvement with the Nazi youth was solely based on his interest in sports and that he regularly worked with sports clubs of different political alignments prior to the war. He was adamant about avoiding any sort of political rally and continued sourcing material from Jewish business owners even after it became unfavorable to do so. One business owner even claimed that Audi hid him and his family on his own property after he warned him that he was to be arrested by the Gestapo. With this information, Audi's classification had switched to that of a lesser degree. He was now considered a minder velocitaire, which still carried with it a sizable fine and a 2-year probation in which he could not own or operate his business. Audi appealed with the help of a lawyer, but his brother Rudy, just released from the internment camp, told the Denazification Committee that Audi had organized the production of tank parts by their factory himself and that Audi held political speeches at the factory, a claim that Audi's wife, Kate, would refute, claiming that Rudy...
All right, Dr. Short, I know we pushed in a little past 10 o'clock, right up on 10 o'clock. What do you think about this so far?
Fascinating.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that statement that they made about Kanye in the beginning while we watched this. That's why I wanted everybody to take a mental note of Adidas' statement when they came out in the newspapers and with this type of history. And I'll tell y'all this before I press play again. In Germany, in Nazi Germany, anybody that had a manufacturer or a manufacturing operation at some point in time supported the war effort. especially when it got towards the end. So don't let the smooth talk fool you on this.
He had in fact organized the speeches. Eventually, Audi was essentially cleared and labeled Mitläufer, a common label that stated that they went along with the regime without any meaningful contributions, and he was once again able to run the business. But the damage was done, and the brothers finally decided to go their separate ways. Rudy and his family moved out and headed to the other side of town across the Auerosch River, which naturally divided the town in two. He took over a small factory owned by the brothers, and the rest of their assets were split, including patents, equipment, and even employees who were allowed to choose which brother they joined. Those who worked in sales and admin sided with the salesman Rudy, while those assembling the shoes sided with the designer Audi. However, the splitting of assets made business for both brothers very difficult. While Audi had all the technicians to create and build the shoes, he had no one to sell them. Rudy had the staff to sell all the inventory, but no inventory to speak of without the technicians. By April 1948, Gebrüder Dossler was no more. Audi would go on to form Adidas, a contraction of his first and last names, in March 1949. While Rudy would try something similar with Rude, he eventually went with Puma, registering it on October 1st, 1948. The town of Herzogenaurach was split down the middle. The brotherly split did not just impact the Dossler family. After the divide, the families in the town held allegiance to either Adidas or Puma. Their loyalty was usually denoted by which side of the Auerosch River they lived, on Rudy's side or Audi's side. The town is also sometimes referred to as the town of broken necks, or residents are known as bent necks, because locals will look at each other's shoes to determine whether or not to speak to someone. Puma went on to dominate in the track and field world, while Adidas arguably became the biggest athletic shoe in the world, all successes undoubtedly fueled by the brothers' not-so-friendly rivalry. Rudy died in 1974 of lung cancer at the age of 76, and Adolf followed 4 years later at the age of 78. Their graves are in the town churchyard on either end of the cemetery, representing their unending hatred. There were rumors, however, that there was a secret meeting between the brothers before their deaths in the 1970s. Some believe they kept this meeting a secret because they thought people, knowing they had met, would be bad for business. A 1981 New York Times article stated, "Only recently has the feud cooled enough so that their company representatives may exchange greetings at sports events, signaling that this fight outlived both men." But the times are changing. Today, both businesses are no.
All right, y'all get the point on that, man. I just thought that was an interesting film for us to watch. Army vet, man, what's up with you? Man, we had Dr. Randy Short in the building, man. He dropped off for a moment, man, but he's probably going to come back. I do have the StreamYard in the chat, man, if y'all want to join and give us your 2 cents on this Kanye situation. I call it the war on Ye, but really it's a war on you. Really, it's a war on you, because if they could do that to a man with the means of Kanye West, and they have, keep in mind, it hasn't been done to any other guys. Didn't happen to Mel Gibson, didn't happen, and Mel Gibson went on a violent tirade that really was anti-Semitic. I mean, he was really talking some vile, crazy shit. You know what I mean? So keep in mind, he got to keep his money in the bank. You know, banks didn't, terminate relationships with him. He didn't lose all of his endorsements, if he even had any endorsements for real. He was able to come back and make movies. He may have dropped off a little bit before then, for a little while after that, but, he came back up. So just keep that in mind. The level of this attack on Kanye West, because of his refusal to back down, this is all it's for. It's the only reason they're doing this. But I'll say this. Take note of how this war is being waged, because we can actually take some pointers from this. I got another film I'm going to show too here tonight. I'm not going to show it right now, but I'm going to let things go for a little bit. But I want y'all to see how this war has been waged. And if Dr. Short comes back, he could talk a little bit about how reparations are generated and how they're paid out. How reparations are generated and paid out. Think about that, because it's more than just Adidas and Puma that were Nazis. It's a lot of companies that were Nazi sympathizers and Nazi collaborators, not just sympathizers, collaborators. A lot of companies that use slave labor from concentration camp prisoners to build, to support the German military machine. Companies that are still around today. That's why I was begging and pleading with my brothers, man, to look at this Kanye thing just a little bit different. I don't know if I can say anything for the sisters right now because Kanye's just done a little too much to them, right? But for the brothers, don't fall into the same trap. And I must admit, I am glad that on the news I didn't see any brothers that were going in on Kanye West. At least no brothers that don't wipe their ass with French ticklers. You know what I'm saying? The mic drop. Yeah. Yeah, that part. Dr. Short, you back?
Yes, I'm back, but I'm not completely sober.
Uh-oh. What, you had to go grab some coffee or something?
I don't know. It's the temperature here is dropping, so it's weird. But anyway, I'm here for a moment at least. I told you I'm probably gonna fall asleep for about 5-10 minutes somewhere in here. Then I'll be back to normal. It happens. It happens.
It's all good. I don't have much longer left anyway. I was just getting into how what value we can extract from watching this war being waged against Kanye West and how all the levers are being pulled at these different companies. I think that this associates we can learn a lot from this, I should say. I don't know if this necessarily associates with us, but we can learn a lot from this and how reparations are generated, how companies are allowed to stay in business to create money and make money to then later be extracted in the form of reparations, right?
Okay.
We talked a little bit about that earlier. There are a lot of companies that were Nazi sympathizers. There were a lot of companies that are still in existence today that use slave labor from concentration camps. One of them was a major employer in my hometown, ThyssenKrupp, which is a steel producer.
It's Krupp. Krupp.
Yeah, Krupp. Yep. Alfred Krupp was the guy, and he was huge in the Nazi war machine.
And in the war machine of Kaiser Wilhelm.
Yeah.
They made cannons and other things, bombs and shells.
Yes.
Krupp.
Yes. Old school German money family. And that's one thing that made that system different. Even though Germany didn't start fascism, Germany took fascism to a new height over what Mussolini, which is credited as being the founder of fascism, or the first practicer of fascism, I should say.
Germany, they were pop gun fascists. The Germans were the real deal. I mean, they were really bad.
Yeah. And I actually did some reports on that in my history classes about the futurists in the Italian fascist party under Mussolini, and basically how these parties always, or how fascist in itself is basically like a fusion between the military and the corporate state. So in which case you'll have corporate capitalism, but militarism in the rest of the society. And, Germany was ripe for that because Germany has always been a militaristic society since they were Prussia. And under the Bismarcks and, the Kaisers and all of that, they were always very militant. But when they fused militant with capitalism or corporate capitalism, they were able to take this thing to some heights that have never been achieved before. And I don't think it will ever be achieved again, in my opinion. It's all broken down now. Now it's everywhere. So I wanted to, talk about how the Jewish people leverage control and power at these companies without actually owning the company. And this is very evident in Adidas. It's a news article. It's that I read, and I'll share the source here. Let me stop sharing that for now. Let me share the source here. So it's the Jewish Telegraphic Agency. So this article came out October 24th, which was what, today? Yesterday?
Right.
And it's by Andrew Lepine, and it's called The Nazi History of Adidas, the sportswear giant that took weeks to drop Kanye West over anti-Semitism. So this is where the pressure started coming on Adidas at. As rap star Kanye West continually refuses to back down from his anti-Semitic rants, some of the many institutions he has ties with have begun to jump ship. The fashion tastemakers Balenciaga and Vogue have announced they will no longer be working with him. Hollywood talent giant CAA has dropped him, and a planned documentary about him has been scrapped. But one formidable company remained until early Tuesday morning in West Corner, Adidas. Despite the German sportswear conglomerate's announcement earlier this month that it would be placing its partnership with West under review, it took 6 days after West boasted on a podcast, "I can literally say anti-Semitic shit, and they cannot drop me," for Adidas to drop them. The brand's radio silence kept us up, even as neo-Nazi groups began using West's words to go after Jews, unveiling an anti-Semitic billboard in Los Angeles that was condemned by the White House Monday. The Anti-Defamation League mounted a growing public pressure campaign to get the company to cut ties with West, and celebrities including Kat Jennings, David Schwimmer, and Busy Phillips have boosted it. Other celebrities, including Reese Witherspoon and West's ex-wife Kim Kardashian, have used their social platforms to condemn anti-Semitism without specifically referencing Adidas or West. Jessica Seinfeld, the Jewish cookbook author and wife of comedian Jerry Seinfeld, spurred a viral Instagram movement by encouraging her followers to share a post reading, "I support my Jewish friends and the Jewish people." Observers are watching Adidas because of its enormously lucrative partnership with West. Their shoes and clothes have generated an estimated $2 billion last year and brought the brand to a cultural cachet among young consumers. But the company has also has a Nazi history that is rarely addressed publicly. So there they go, letting you know that, hey, they have their own shit going too. So this was a hit piece on Adidas to kind of increase the pressure, right? Man, what up, Bob? How you doing, brother? So here's an abbreviated version of Adidas's history with the Nazis, Jews, and the superstar rapper who goes by Ye. So now they're actually including Ye in sentences with the Nazis. So they're going to tie him to the concentration camps via his relationship with Adidas. This is wicked shit, man. This is wicked shit. So does Adidas really have Nazi origins? Yes, but its founding predates the Nazis' rise. The company was founded in 1924 in Weimar era Germany as the Gebruder Dassler Schuhfabrik. And that's the one they just did. I'm not good at, I don't have a German tongue. Or Geta for short, by Cobbler brothers Adolf and Rudolf Dassler. We already discussed them. We already saw that, but I'm just letting you know that there was a mounting media pressure or presence to put pressure on Adidas to drop this man, which they know has impacted his billionaire status. And now they're gloating about that on social media. I saw this earlier today on my social media, and I decided, once again, I'll get it and I'll play it for y'all. But this is crazy, man. I mean, people are really literally celebrating this man's demise, or so they think. My friend Tommy B seems to think that Ye got this thing all figured out. So let's go. Yeah, let's just do this here. There we go. All right, so this is entitled "Kanye Loses Billionaire Status and Now Only Worth This." Let's see. So they're saying that Ye's only worth around 400 million. So yeah. So you got Us Weekly coming out. They're going in on him. People are celebrating him losing his billionaire status. I think it's shameful. I think it's sick. And trust me, I wanted to go way harder than this about that tonight, but I got respect for Dr. Randy Short, so I'm not going to pull him into my method of madness here on the Big Mic Drop tonight. So I was able to keep it a little bit calm. We should be doing the same thing that they're doing. We should be doing the same thing that they do. We should be putting these businesses on blast. Every black person in this country should know about Bank of America. You should know about the banks that the Sally Mae. You should know about your money. You should know about the money that was stolen from your people. You should know about the land that was stolen from your people. You should know about the Freedmen's Bank being emptied out to finance railroads going west. $57 million in 1870 taken, which is the equivalent of 115 billion today, and that's just dollar for dollar. That's not counting interest. That's not counting investments. That's not counting the flip, right? I can't be mad at them. They were persecuted, victimized, damn near genocided, but so were we. And they make sure they stand together to get any perceived threat out of there, even if it means using you. I've heard so much from y'all. This is part of the reason I wanted to do this show. I've heard so much from y'all, it's sickening. More than I should be hearing. Because when it happens to black folks, when it happens to us, y'all niggas be radio silent. You can hear a rat pissing on cotton. That's why I have that creature down at the bottom of the screen here. Because that's what we are. We're the golem. We're the creature that's created from earth to help everybody else out. And then we return back to that earth. Back to the bottom, back to the dirt. While everybody else continues to capitalize. I asked a question last show. Well, not last show. I think we were on Mandrell's show. If Chuck Berry would have made the statements Kanye West made 60, 70 years ago, what would the music industry look like today? What would the music we listen to sound like? Real shit, real questions. Why do we all like the music that we all say we don't like? That promotes the things that we don't need, that we know are dangerous, that we know are destructive to our people. Why aren't we putting places out of business and people out of business that stay fucked up shit about us in public? We got the power to do it. But it also takes will, i.e. willpower, right? But willpower comes from a code and codified behavior. And I really think that's where the problem lies. And I'm not going to sit back and act like I have the solution to this problem. I don't. I don't know why we're off code in many situations. The media's done a number on us. And like I said, people love to educate you about them when you say something ignorant or make a mistake. But meanwhile, they make a living off of miseducating you about yourself. and misrepresenting you in public. And by public, I mean globally. And guess what? We go for it because they got a bag. And I think about Noriega. And Puff, you won. Puff played chess with Kanye. Puff won. He played chess. He let Ye come on his platform and undo himself. And he used Nori to do it. And y'all want to act like y'all took the video down. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Because I know for a fact, we can't depend on either one of y'all to do anything for us. I trust Kanye more than I trust y'all niggas. As crazy as he is, right? Since we like to shame people because of mental illness. Y'all can shame this brother for mental illness. But they won't allow you to say that Ann Hesh was a crackhead, right? She was coked out, right? They ain't gonna let you say all that. And you go right for it. Because somehow you think that it's going to protect you or that you're somehow going to have protection. See, you want to nest in white supremacy. You want to find somewhere to nest. You want to be comfortable. And like we've already discussed, comfort is the enemy of man. Comfort is the number one killer of man. It's not even something to strive for. I want to show y'all one more thing, and then I'm going to get out of here because we're going on 2 hours. But I want to show y'all one more thing. Just for those who did not know, and tell me what you think about this.
Would you buy products from a company that collaborated with the Nazis during World War II? What if that company paid reparations? Adolf Hitler.
Uh-oh. Hold on.
Would you buy products from a company that...
I fucked that all the way up. Let's go. Some of y'all might be taking your cars back and everything else after this, right?
Collaborated with the Nazis during World War II? What if that company paid reparations or started a foundation as a way to apologize for the mistakes of the past? Or what if the company refused to apologize or admit they did anything wrong? Would you still buy their products? We're about to look at several companies that had ties to the Nazi.
Now keep in mind, black folks. Keep in mind, black folks.
Would you buy products?
If you answer no to that question, then answer why is the answer yes to products of companies that did the same thing to us. Maybe not the exact same thing. In principle. And over a greater amount of time. Right? Let's go.
From a company that collaborated with the Nazis during World War II? What if that company paid reparations or started a foundation as a way to apologize for the mistakes of the past? Or what if the company refused to apologize or admit they did anything wrong? Would you still buy their products? We're about to look at several companies that had ties to the Nazi Party or profited by selling products to the Nazis during World War II. All of these companies are still around today, and we can almost guarantee you own one or more of their products. Let's find out which ones. If you've ever taken a picture using old school film, you've probably bought a product from Kodak. For decades after World War II, Kodak kept a sinister secret from the public. They had been Nazi collaborators during the war. Kodak had subsidiaries in Germany and across Europe. Even as Germany's bold aspirations for world domination grew in the 1930s, Kodak kept healthy business relationships with the Nazi Party. After all-out war broke out and the United States joined the Allies, the U.S. government mandated that companies could no longer do business with Axis nations. This was a problem for many companies operating internationally, Kodak being one of them. Kodak allowed their German branch to become more self-sufficient, and eventually the Nazis took control of it. However, Kodak took things one step further to make a profit. They began using their subsidiaries in neutral European countries, such as Switzerland, to continue doing business with Nazi Germany. The subsidiaries in Europe continued selling photographic equipment and electronics to the Nazis on behalf of Kodak. This meant that the Kodak Corporation was directly providing technology to the Nazis and making a profit off it, all while hiding these facts from the United States government. The heads of the Kodak company justified these actions by citing the massive profits they were bringing in. Worst of all, the German branch of Kodak used over 250 slave laborers from concentration camps. After the war, Kodak reclaimed their German subsidiary and collected the large profits made by the slave laborers during the war. Kodak ended up paying $500,000 into a fund which provided reparations to families of people who worked as slaves under the Nazi-controlled subsidiary. But the company never actually apologized. Volkswagen is clearly a German word, and it probably doesn't surprise you that the company had ties to the Nazi Party. However, what might surprise you is that the company was actually started by the Nazis. Adolf Hitler himself laid out the precursor to what would become Volkswagen. The idea for the company started with Hitler wanting to create a car for the common man, a people's car. And this is how Volkswagen got its name, Volks meaning people and wagon meaning car. Hitler hired Ferdinand Porsche to develop the car. This initiative was where the classic Volkswagen Beetle got its shape. But the new head of the organization, which would eventually become Volkswagen, had bigger plans. Porsche insisted that the company also make military vehicles to support the Reich. The most influential of these vehicles was the Volkswagen Kübelwagen, which was a light military vehicle often seen in World War II movies, carrying around SS and Nazi officers. It had a boxy body and a tire mounted on the hood. During the time period that the Nazi parties controlled Germany, more than 15,000 slaves from concentration camps were used to build the Volkswagen cars. The company even helped build the Arbeitsdorf concentration camp near one of their main factories to ensure a steady supply of slave labor was available. In 1998, under pressure from human rights organizations, Volkswagen agreed to create a fund that would benefit the victims and their families that were used as slave labor. Other companies benefited from large profits gained by working with the Nazis in a different way. Several companies were started or acquired by wealthy individuals whose fortune started with the money made from dealing with the Nazi Party. For example, the Reimann family, who owns JAB Holdings, profited greatly from Nazi abuses and slave labor. You might be unfamiliar with JAB Holdings, but you probably know the companies they own, such as Krispy Kreme, Panera Bread, and Pret a Manger. These companies were all created post-World War II. However, their financing was partly provided by JAB Holdings, which unfortunately means they profited indirectly from the atrocities of the Nazis. When this information was made public, the Reimann family said they were planning to donate around $11 million to suitable organizations. Coca-Cola is an American company. People around the world associate Coke with being American. When you think of the soda, an image of American families or friends enjoying an ice-cold beverage probably comes to mind. However, the Coca-Cola company had ties to the Nazi Party during World War II. The drink line Fanta, which includes commercials of people happily dancing to upbeat music, was actually created for Nazi Germany. As the Nazis came to power in 1933, Coca-Cola was making enormous profits in Germany, selling their products under the leadership of Max Keith. He made the Coca-Cola brand more appealing to the German citizen, which resulted in a boost in sales. He also knew how to market the product in a way that would make people around the world want to buy Coca-Cola. During the 1936 Berlin Olympics, Max Keith made sure everyone in attendance had as much Coke as they could drink. As the Nazis prepared for war, they started to limit the amount of foreign goods coming into the country. This included Coca-Cola syrup, which began to hurt the company's profits. So the sneaky Coke executives used a third party to open a dialogue with Hermann Göring, Hitler's second-in-command. They convinced him to allow the import of their syrup. To boost sales even further, Keith began promoting the Coca-Cola company as pro-Nazi in Germany. His plan was to reach out to the Hitler Youth and win over the younger generation of Nazis. And this worked for a time, but as war broke out, restrictions on imports became stricter again. Max Keith had a new syrup created in Germany using local products. This new soda became Fanta, based off the German word fantasy, which means imagination. In 1941, when the United States joined the war, all official contact between the Coca-Cola Company and Max Keith's German branch was cut off. Keith continued to sell his supply of actual Coca-Cola syrup to the Nazi Party members and marketed the Fanta drink to the German public. The German people quickly fell in love with the drink, and Keith continued to make large profits for the Coca-Cola Company. After the war ended, Coca-Cola took back control of their German branch. They even reinstated the recently convicted Nazi collaborator Max Keith as its leader. The profits made from the German branch during the years of the Nazi regime were funneled back into the main company. If you're into high-end fashion, then you might be surprised that one of the most successful fashion companies in the world has deep ties to the Nazi Party. Hugo Boss set up a fashion label in Germany 2 years before the Nazi Party came into power. Even before the Nazis gained control of the country, Hugo Boss was a Nazi collaborator. The company itself had produced early Nazi uniforms in their factories. In 1931, Hugo Boss made it clear where his allegiances lie when he officially joined the Nazi Party. He became a sponsoring member of the Schutzstaffel and made monthly donations. Hugo Boss and his company created many uniforms for the Nazis and made large profits on outfitting their soldiers. The company also produced uniforms for the SS and Hitler Youth. In order to keep up with demand, Hugo Boss had been employing slave labor from the concentration camps. It was reported that the company used 140 slaves from the camps and 40 prisoners of war from France to make their products. The worst part was that many of these workers were either worked to death or later sent to Auschwitz or Buchenwald to be sentenced to death. After the war, Hugo Boss was tried and convicted for being a supporter and beneficiary of National Socialism, and his right to own a company was taken away. The company continued under Boss's son-in-law, Eugen Holy. In 1999, the company finally agreed to pay into a fund that was set up to compensate former slave laborers. If you've ever had a headache or needed relief from pain, you may have taken an aspirin Bayer. The company that makes the pain reliever may have one of the darkest histories when it comes to collaborating with the Nazi Party. In the 1930s, Bayer was part of a company called IG Farben. It was a conglomerate made up of several chemical companies in Germany. As the Nazis swept through Czechoslovakia, IG Farben worked closely with the party to capture chemical factories to be used by the corporation. The chemists who worked for Bayer and were employed by IG Farben later went on to create Zyklon B, the gas used in concentration camps to quickly kill large numbers of Jews and other people the Nazis labeled as undesirable. IG Farben.
Hey, I gotta say this.
Oh,
I gotta say this. You know who sold Zyklon B? A young Polish man. First name was Karol. Nazi. He became Pope John Paul II. Now, what's important about Pope John Paul II in this conversation is that nobody talks about what was on the front of Kanye and Candace Owens shirts. They just talk about what was on the back. White Lives Matter. But on the front, and I can't remember which order, I want to say Kanye had Pope John Paul II and Candace Owens had Pope John Paul I. It's either or, right? 50-50 chance I'm wrong or right.
You're right.
Why does that play? How does that play into this whole narrative? Because that's really when his problem started. What do you think, Dr. Short?
I think that people are going to pursue their interests, and on top of that, because people have what they want to get out of something, that's what they ultimately chase until that game ends. I think we're looking at a situation wherein the game time is running out. A lot more people are learning there's a difference between a Khazarian and a Hebrew. And I feel that this will continue.
Right. Man, I thank you. I thank you for your time tonight, man.
Okay,
I just wanted to put this out there and put this on people's minds. And I needed somebody to keep me calm because I was on the emotional roller coaster about this whole situation. I needed to think about it and kind of put my thoughts out there in the right way, the right order. I don't think I got too bad tonight. Definitely not as bad as I wanted to get. But yeah, man, you got anything in closing? I'm gonna go and let you get to it. I got to get up and hit it early.
I think we need to have a part 2, but just the key thing is that we wouldn't even be talking about this if we were taking care of one another.
Facts.
That's the key.
Facts. No,
and we need to go from sitting in to looking in. We need a movement to take a look at our hearts and from there act accordingly. It can happen.
Oh yeah, it definitely can. and we could definitely start trying to trace this this paper trail back and find out where our damn money is too.
Mm.
And let these companies operate. Y'all can still operate and make profits. Matter of fact, we like it like that. We just need our share of the stock.
Mm.
That's where I'm at with it. November 5th, reparations march on Washington.
And November 8th, vote out Gacy. Don't let Gacy become governor, or wet whore. Don't let him become governor in Maryland. We need to show people that we're serious, and the party BS will end when we end it.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. We're in some interesting times, Dr. Short, man, but I ain't scared. I'm excited. Maybe foolishly so, but I am all the same. So I'm looking. I'm looking for what's next. The scales of justice have to balance out. That's physics. We can't get around that. Dr. Short, I appreciate you for coming on the show this evening, man. You have a good night.
Thank you, brother. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you too, man. Dr. Randy Short in the building with the big mic drop, man. Once again, so gracious of the brother to stop by and, man, you know, on such a short notice and just, chop up some game with us. I hope y'all soaked it up. A lot of information on tonight's show. A lot of information. But yeah, we're gonna hit this back with a part 2. I'm quite sure this thing isn't over. I'm quite sure it isn't over. On the way out, I'm gonna let y'all finish watching this video because I feel like it's information you need to know.
Farben also heavily used slave labor from the same camps they provided Zyklon B2. It was a very messed up relationship between the Nazis and IG Farben. They built a factory next to Auschwitz where they would use the prisoners their product would later kill for slave labor. As the war came to an end, IG Farben was forced to dissolve. The directors of the company were put on trial for war crimes. Unfortunately, justice was never served, and Fritz Tamir, who was the director of operations at the IG Farben facility at Auschwitz, became the president of Bayer after the war. In 1995, Bayer apologized for their role in the Holocaust. If you're watching this video, you most likely are using a device that has components built by IBM. The company, International Business Machines, has been around since 1911. In 1933, the president of the company, Thomas Watson, traveled to Germany to oversee an IBM factory being built there. At this time, IBM was using a subsidiary called the Almag to do their work in Germany. IBM's subsidiary had been hired by the Nazi Party to carry out a nationwide census. The census itself was designed to identify populations of ethnic groups that the Nazis found impure or undesirable. This included populations of Jews, Gypsies, and any ethnic group that would dilute the Aryan bloodlines of the country. IBM supplied the Nazis with punch cards and a sorting system that would make it easy for them to identify, locate, and track any people that they'd later sentence to death. These same machines and cards were later converted and used to coordinate the trains bringing people to the death camps across Nazi-controlled territories. IBM's come a long way since punch cards, but at the time the technology was bringing in massive amounts of money for the company. IBM continued to conduct business with the Germans even after the U.S. joined the war. High-ranking members of IBM falsified data from their European subsidiaries to make sure they could smuggle in punch card materials and devices that were in high demand by the Nazis. For IBM at the time, the Nazi business of killing was highly lucrative. During World War II, Nazi Germany was IBM's largest territory after the United States. Now, many computers and electronic devices use parts created by IBM. The crazy part is that up to this day, IBM has not apologized for their complicity in the Holocaust. A company's main purpose is to make money, but at what cost? It's important to never forget the past so we don't repeat the same mistakes. Collaborating with the Nazi Party and being complicit in the atrocities they carried out during World War II is a steep price to pay to make a profit. Now check out oldest companies in the world, over 800 years.
All right, fam. Look, just know this. It's companies out there that did the same thing to your ancestors. Companies out there did the same thing to your folks. Who are they? Where are they? And where is our shit? Put the hashtag MFM in the chat if you still with us. Put the hashtag MFM. Because I want my motherfucking money. I like that. That's a good way to end this, right? Look, man, I'm your host, Big Mike. I appreciate y'all for joining, sticking with us this evening. Didn't have anybody come up on the panel tonight, but it's all good. Sometimes it's just good to listen, right? I appreciate those who listened to us this evening. And salute to the chat and salute to Dr. Randy Short. I'm your boy, Big Mike. I'm out. This has been another episode of the Big Mike Drop. Peace.